Welcome back to Takacs McGinnis Elder Care Law Hour. I'm Tim Takacs, and today we're talking about spring cleaning.
And I'm Barbara McGinnis. In this particular segment, we're going to be talking about downsizing and organizing. And with us to understand this is Tina Plichta, a professional organizer and the owner of Orderly Manor. And she's going to tell us, how do we get organized for if we're helping our family members move or if we're just taking care of them? What's a professional organizer and when do we need one?
Well, a professional organizer will come in and try to assess the situation and just see what are the stress points, the areas why we got called in the first place, of what they're overwhelmed with, and then try to, at that point, help them reduce some of the things they have, find out what's important to them to keep, and then put systems in place to just help make it easier for them. And but with an organizer, you can come alongside and work with them and help with the process.
You know, and of course, you've been watching from the sidelines till your segment, so you've heard a lot about the legal, financial, and tax papers.
Right.
Yeah, and you know, families come in and say, "What do I do now? I've got 50 years of Dad's records." Mm-hmm. What are some tricks or tips for organizing?
With the paperwork?
Yes, ma'am.
Usually I have them be able to collect all that paperwork and then just having a notebook and some post-it notes and start just going through the piles, maybe have one on medical, financial, and just start to do like a pass through of the basics, and then we can do another pass to really find out if we need to keep it or not. But just to, if you come in and you're taking care of your loved one and you know, they have these records all over the place, to find out which ones are, you know, the vital records to keep that will help them, whether it's, you know, their POA or, you know, the will and that sort of thing, right. Or if it's their insurance that they have and their medical coverage and expenses, and just trying to sort those piles, you know, a little at a time.
That's really common sense and practical way of, if you just walk in and there's this big pile of papers because your parents haven't been filing for months or maybe even years, just start sorting through bank records, financial records, and medical records, and then estate planning documents, and making your little piles. And then you start seeing what still exists. That's going to help you find, you know, when you have to be the PI, the investigator. It's going to help you really get organized.
And the key is if you can work with your parents beforehand to try to get that information and sort through it so you have a better understanding of what income is coming in and their expenses and what accounts they have, and you know, like you guys talked about with the passwords, and be able to access those accounts and that sort of thing. So,
right. And it sounds like a lot of what a professional organizer does is to help people just to do it.
To guide them.
Kind of give them a,
that they're not alone in the process, and that they can, you know, have someone that has an idea that's worked with other people that can say, okay, sometimes they just need direction. Show me, do this, and then move on to the next thing.
Well, how about a case where, you know, you're we're not necessarily talking about paperwork, but we're talking about stuff. You know, you've got like maybe 50 years worth of Takacs McGinnis Elder Care Law Hour cups or something. Right. You know, the various iterations of that. You know, how do you help families with those sorts of things?
Well, try to help find out what things are important to them, for them to keep. But then if they have their children, that there might be items in the home that certain members want, to make a list of those items, maybe even take a picture of that item to say that this is going to this person, and just finding out what might be important. And then getting rid of the stuff that's not something, like if they're transitioning into assisted living and going into a smaller place, or if they're going into maybe moving in with one of their kids in like an in-law suite or something, figure out that space that you have and just find out the essential things that you need to bring in that space, and then find ways, whether it's charities that, you know, are special to their heart, tug at their heart, that they can give, someone else can be using those items, or to just eliminate and get rid of it.
So some people are more attached to stuff than others, but they're not really hoarders. They just like their stuff. How do you help keep their environment simple and safe?
Well, like I said, with figuring out what space they're going to try to have them clearly understand they only have so much room that they can bring things, but also to figure out what's really important to them. And when they understand that, to be able to say, okay, maybe I don't need these things here. If I get rid of this stuff, then I'll be able to have more time, whether it's the social time with other people or their family, you know, their loved ones, and then try to just talk through it. A lot of times it's just coming alongside of them and talking through and asking a lot of questions, and usually through those questions they can kind of come to the realization of, oh, maybe I don't need that, or you know.
Right. So do you work a lot with caregivers for older people?
It's been a mix. I've worked with seniors in general who've pulled me in on their own, or if it's their kids saying, you know, I've got to take care of this sick family member.
Yeah. So what tips do you have for like maybe the caregivers that not only have to manage their own household but manage their parents'
Their
household?
parents, yes.
You know, how to, I mean, basically it's like time management.
Right.
Can you give us some tips, a few of those?
Definitely having things written down, you know, whether it's the schedule, the medication schedule for the person they're taking care of, maybe the financial things or that sort of stuff, but then also for their own, to have their own expenses and their time, and try to block out the time. And a key thing I think is having time for themselves. I've been in that role where I have been a caregiver and trying to have support around taking care of my own needs before I can take care of them, which is hard to do, but it's trying to just have it written down, and in a way that maybe if someone came in and even filled in for an hour or two, they can see the chart. These are the medications that you need to give them. These are when we're changing, you know, the sheets, or giving them a bath, and just having it kind of written down. It doesn't I think sometimes we make it more complicated, so it's just the basics.
Yeah, great, Tina. We've got your contact information, and that's Orderly Manor, orderly with a dash, manor.com. And we've only got about 30 seconds. We're going to wrap up. Are you priced by the hour or the project?
It can be both. It just depends on the situation.
Well, great. That's very interesting. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk with another professional about organizing materials or property and
Hoarding.
Actually, when it gets to be a little bit more difficult situation. So stay tuned. It's going to be real interesting.